Konnichiwa, konbawa, ohayo gozaimasu. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Khan, and it is almost 2 o'clock in the morning here, so I'm going to try to keep my voice down, but still audible so you guys can hear this. So the state of the game just happened not too long ago, and yeah, there's some big changes coming in the new patch, version 3, and in this new patch, Striker is getting a pretty big change when it comes to PvP. Thankfully, if you're a PvE head and you don't really care so much about PvP and you're wondering about Striker getting kind of nerfed into the ground, you don't have to worry so much about that, as the majority, well, basically as all of the changes that are coming to Striker are going to happen in the PvP settings. So that is the Dark Zone, that's skirmish, that's all, anything that's related to PvP. That's where the Striker meta and the Striker changes are coming. So if you're into Striker for PvE, don't worry about it, everything should be the same. There are also some other things that are going to be talked about in the video. I'm going to let Petter talk about it, and also we have Terry from Red Storm is also here, and he's going to be talking about some things as well, basically breaking down what changes occurred, why they occurred, and just giving a little bit more detail. So with all of that being said, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn something new. Some changes are getting shaken up in the division, and then after we get all of that information from them, we'll come back, talk about it, and then we'll break down the screenshot that they showed of Striker, and then that'll be it. So without further ado, let's get started. State of the game.
Hello everyone, welcome to State of the Game for August 16, 2018. The next update is releasing next Thursday, August 23rd, which will include all the bug fixes and stuff we talked about before, but also the changes to Striker and some other stuff. So we're going to jump straight into update 1.8.3 that, as I said, will be releasing next week. So one big thing that we are going to do is there's changes to the Striker's battle gear set. But before we talk about those changes, I want to know kind of what are your feelings if we look at the division today on the PvP meta?
In an effort to be as transparent as possible, I wish there was more diversity. I realize that our players are always going to look for the best option, and Striker with a combination of other things is very powerful. And so min-maxing is generally what people do in RPGs. So I understand why we're where we are. I wish there was more diversity, and quite frankly, I wish I could continue to work on balance for Division 1, because it's still a very heavily played game, but we do what we can.
What changes are you actually making to the Striker gear set in 1.8.3?
I think the first one has to do with EMP. So, when you're EMP'd while you're, rocking Striker, you used to just pause everything. You couldn't lose stacks, you couldn't gain stacks, you didn't get the healing or anything. Now when you're EMP'd, you will actively lose stacks with time. So yes, you'll lose stacks if you miss your target, but now you can't just keep what you had. If you're EMP'd, you'll drop stacks with time. We have also reduced the healing rate for classified Strikers a smidge, so you'll get less healing when you're rocking the stacks. We've also changed stack accumulation, so now one shot equals one stack. And that counts for pellets too, shotgun pellets. So I'm sure a lot of people were interested in hearing about shotguns. It used to be that you would get 2 stacks per pellet, and so one trigger pull could net you 16 stacks. And that is no longer the case. So you'll get 1 stack per pellet, meaning a well-placed shotgun shot will give you 8 stacks. So we did that. And I think an interesting point to make is these changes are only going to take place in PvP. So in the Dark Zone, in Skirmish, and in Last Stand, the changes we just talked about will be present, but not in PvE. So it's only PvP we're doing this for.
Right. Why are these changes being made?
Well, I think it all started with the running in place bug, right? That was nasty. Again, again, with transparency, right? We should have caught that sooner. And so that was our mistake. So I'm very happy that the community continued to be loud and continued to rally. And so once we cracked it back open to fix that, there was a perfect opportunity to take a look, see how much time we had, and fix some stuff that was, that we felt were, egregious. It's not necessarily the best timing, right? We're working on Tom Clancy's The Division 2, but as I mentioned, this is still a heavily played game. And so diverting some resources, taking some time, fixing the things that we didn't like, fixing the things that the community were not fond of was a good time for us.
Striker will work slightly differently in PvP areas such as, Last Stand, Skirmish, and of course, the Dark Zone. How come?
We've had a lot of fun over the summer with 1.7, 1.8, trying different things out. Things like global events and a lot of other things under the hood, whether that's the rogue mechanic. And it's giving us a lot of opportunity to see how players respond and see whether or not we want to take changes into Division 2. And so we've heard before that people are potentially interested in having separate PvE and PvP balancing for gear sets. So why not take that opportunity to analyze how the community responds to this isolated change? If it's a positive change, if people respond well to the fact that they have different tunings for PvE and PvP, then maybe that's something we take forward into Division 2, maybe not, but this is a perfect way to test it is in this case. Because I really liked how people were using Striker in the PvE content. I liked to see what people could do in the really challenging content, how they managed their heals. And so I wanted that to stay because I liked that, but we acknowledge that PvP Strikers in combination with a few other things was just too buff. So, hey, how about we split it and see what happens?
Have you seen anything special when it comes to how it works with, or how it synergizes with other gear sets?
Interestingly enough, a number of the other gear sets started to bubble up to the surface, like two in particular that we saw in our playtest that were very strong against Strikers with these changes. Predmark was actually very effective still. And Lone Star actually was crushing some souls. So there were some other sets when used in specific examples, more so in the Dark Zone. We did a lot of skirmish testing and some DZ testing, so it depends on what we were playing. But yeah, we did see a few other sets come back into power, and it wasn't just a guaranteed win when they went up against somebody that was rocking 60 or 70 stacks with Strikers. So I was very pleased.
First of all, I just want to say that there was a bug with the showstopper and auto aim that we have addressed in 1.8.3, but there was also one more thing that we fixed with the showstopper related to the RPM.
Yeah, it was possible to fire faster than its maximum RPM if you timed your trigger pulls just right. And it's very impressive, in fact, that people can do that. I salute and applaud all of you. But we fixed it, so you can no longer time your trigger pulls and fire faster than its maximum RPM. So that's cool. Although, from what I understand, it will still sound like you can. But according to the super smarties and the engineers, you're not firing over the cap anymore. So we fixed it.
Right. So that's why we wanted to bring this up as well, because it will sound like it, and you will feel the rumble if you're playing with a controller, but it's not actually happening. While changing Striker, there's actually one more balancing change being done, and that is to the Support Station Master mod. What can you tell us about those changes?
I wasn't a fan of what we call the drop and pop. I realized that it's a tactic, and it's a tactic that's used a lot because of survivability in PvP, and it's a great way to elongate fights and get instant heals. I didn't really like watching it, and I felt kind of dirty doing it as well. I didn't like the fact that in many cases it was possible for players to get a bigger heal from dropping and popping than using the first aid skill, because of where their skill power was. And so, I asked the designers to take a look at it. And so we didn't want to remove the functionality altogether. I like the tactic of it, just not how much heal it was giving. So I feel like you guys have discussed with the changes that were made, but I like the new combat scenarios that it started presenting players when you had to let the support station live a little bit longer before you popped it to get that max heal. So in our testing, we saw players starting to place it strategically and moving around the combat and not popping it right away, and then using some other resources to stretch out the fight, and then retreating to where they put their support station and then popping it. And that felt a lot cooler. It felt, it felt more tactical. So I like it a lot better.
Right.
Now players will have to adjust. I realize that. I've seen literally almost every streamer do the drop and pop, and of course, why not? Because it functions so well. But hopefully they'll adjust and appreciate these new tactics and scenarios that will happen.
Today also, as well, is worth pointing out, definitely, that the new shield, the Phoenix shield, dropped today. It's survival centered. Kill 5 hunters, extract 5 times, and survive for 5 hours. And in case you don't have survival, we also made the DLC free for 1 week. So get in there and try to survive. I've already seen quite a bit of survival buzz coming our way, which is great.
Alright guys, that is it for this week's State of the Game. Lots of new changes. Looking at Striker, this is what they showed. Basically every consecutive hit deals 1% more damage, stacks up to 100%, missing drop shots bonus by 2%, bonus is reduced by 1% every second. It's not possible to gain stacks, and bonus damage is not applied while under the effect of EMP. Bonus is lost when exiting combat. So this is really important, and it's a huge change for Striker. We're gonna have to test things out and see how fast these stacks deplete when you're hit by the EMP. The other thing is that the shotguns are not really going to be, more than likely I would say, are not going to be the fastest ways to gain your stacks. You'll probably have a far easier time and better time with a faster RPM assault rifle or SMG, something that's faster firing, just to get those stacks up. I would probably bank on saying that the Bullfrog, which is still really good, a good Bullfrog is still really good with Striker. So I would say probably the Bullfrog or one of the M4 variants is probably going to take over from where the shotguns left off, and it's still going to be good. I think Striker is still going to be all right. It may not be as OP as it was before. It's like King of the Hill, but I still think that it'll be one of the top, must-have sets to have. And even if you have it in PvE, it'll still be amazingly good, and you'll still be able to run around with it and still do damage. They didn't really say if the stacks with the shotguns and stuff are going to be the same in PvE, but they didn't say that they weren't. So I'm gonna just kind of guess that they are, and hopefully they are, and then the PvE content will still be okay. But if you're doing the harder missions, you still will get one shot with a melee, so don't forget about that. No matter how many stacks you got, that melee hits your ass and you're going down. So just keep that in mind. But that is going to be about it for this State of the Game. Anything else that they really talked about that was kind of worth mentioning? The drop and pop with the boxes. I think a lot of people are kind of 50-50 on that. Some people are going to be okay with it. A lot of other people are going to say that that was a pretty stupid thing to change. Let me know in your opinion, what do you think about having the box and then popping the box for that heal and maybe even that overshield? Do you think that was a good idea, or would you like for it to have kind of stayed the way that it was, or would you like to see them change something else, like maybe make the overall effectiveness of self heals better? What do you think? Just let me know in the comment section down below, and I'm going to leave it at that. It is past 2 a.m. so I'm going to go, and that guy deserved that because he meleeed me, so screw that guy. All right, I'm out of here, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you soon. Take it easy. Peace.